Live with the one and only, the boy. What's up, everybody? Welcome into Monday Night Live, presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly. That right there is Mr. Forverts, Charles McDonald from Yahoo Sports. Charles, there's a lot of football talk that we have to do, and none of it has to do with the NCAA that we've just played for the last 4 hours before this stream, which we're not going to get into. The computer cheats. Everybody in the chat knows it. We're not going to get to that.
It sure does cheat. I'm tired of it cheating. I've realized I've made myself spread a little bit too thin with all these leagues, but I'm gonna keep fighting on. And
I have like 4 of them where I'm like, all right, one of them is gonna suffer, and I think it's the one that me and you were just talking about.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too.
All right. We had a interesting week of football for week 3 of the NFL. I feel like a lot of teams surprised us in good and bad ways. I want to start with Baltimore and Dallas because we felt like this was the year that Dallas maybe was moving towards putting things together. They signed a lot of big contracts. The team is built to win now. And then they do that not only the last week against New Orleans, but now to the Baltimore Ravens, who we knew were a little bit of a slow starting team, but to get that done to you at home. And then Jerry Jones on Jamie Foxx's Live, which we'll get into a little bit after that. But like, where does Dallas go from here? Because it feels like the only way to go is up, but damn, things are looking bad.
It's just, I kind of think it's just like also a tough draw at this point in the season. Because I thought that I listened to some of the show today and Dan made a good point, which I think is actually true, where you get like 0-2 teams and they come into week 3 and they're like, oh my God, like if we don't win today, like our season's function, it's over. Almost no one digs out of an 0-3 hole. And especially when you have a team like the Ravens, and we all know like they're like, that's not a normal 0-2 team. Like they're a lot better than teams that are usually piddling around with that record at this point in the year. I think it just all just was like the perfect storm for them to just kind of get blown out until like the very end at home. So I think when you're looking at this, the one thing that I would say is really concerning is the defense looks pretty soft. Like they just don't look like they have, especially like down the spine of the defense, like the middle, they just don't look like they have the horses to really stop the run or really get a whole lot of pass rush going there. So, if I'm Saquon Barkley and the Eagles and I'm watching, Cowboys tape for whenever they got to play, I'm loving what I saw yesterday where the Ravens just said, nope, 75% run rate. We're throwing 40. We're running 45 times. We threw 15 times. And for the most part, it was a blowout. And then when they need to clinch it at the end, they just ran them the absolute hell over right to end the game. So that's one area for Dallas I would be concerned about. I think like Dak and the offense are going to be fine. Maybe you expand CeeDee Lamb's route tree a little bit, Mike McCarthy, because he can do a little bit more than all these little button hooks you're asking. Mm-hmm. But the defense is like, whoa, we might have a problem here for the whole season.
And that was something that was really good last season, right? And I feel like it was a bit of the mirage of the turnovers, which again are random and do not carry over year to year, just like we know defense quality sometimes doesn't carry over from year to year. But when you look at what they were able to do from a turnover standpoint, that they're just not turning teams over now. Do they have a turnover this season?
I know they didn't come into the game. I don't think they had one versus Baltimore. So that's not going to cut it. But like, honestly, part of this is what was plaguing their defense towards the end of last year too, where they were just getting run off the field by teams who could actually run the ball. So I think like this part might be a kind of a multi-year step for them, where you're replacing because Dan Quinn's someone who's like, well, we can sacrifice size for speed if we can actually move, and sometimes that works. Sometimes it gets 48 points put on your head in the wild card round by the Green Bay Packers. But like if you remember, one of the first things that Mike Zimmer did when he got hired by the Cowboys was he goes out, gets his old buddy Linval Joseph, not the same Linval Joseph he had in 2016. And then they traded for Jordan Phillips, who was not a great contributor before getting benched. So they're trying to get some big boys up there. Mozzie Smith has been great since being drafted in the first round. And now they're getting absolutely steamrolled by Baltimore Ravens when they need to get off the field.
And on the Baltimore side, this was obviously a very good showing for them. It feels like they're a team, and I feel we could say this every year, that can't really play from behind that well because they need to establish the run game, establish that dominance of like, all right, we're going to grind you to dust, especially with Derrick Henry. It was positive that they were able to get such a big lead early and obviously almost choke it away, but whatever, we'll never, that's neither here nor there. Going forward for Baltimore, the division is interesting, right? Are we buying Pittsburgh at 3-0?
I buy the defense for sure. I definitely buy the defense. Yeah, the offense, I don't know. Like, so Justin Fields definitely looked better. Like, I thought that was one of the best games Justin Fields has played since he was like a rookie in terms of just like consistently throwing the ball. And he was working like quick game better than he usually does. So maybe this is the quarterback that Arthur Smith didn't know he actually needed, because remember when he had a chance to draft him when he was Atlanta's head coach, he passed up. But so far, this is looking to be like a pretty good marriage so far. So I think the defense is definitely real. And if your defense is real, you got whatever magic Mike Tomlin's got going on over there, because I don't understand it. Like,
I don't get it.
You look at this offense, like it's just not a great unit when you look at into the players that they have, but they're getting by just enough. I think Arthur Smith might be one of those guys where I'm best as an OC more than a guy who's overseeing the whole thing, because I do think he's actually done a pretty good job with what he's been given. So, hey, they are just running it back to the tried and true formula. We are going to clobber your head on defense, and we're going to run the ball and hope we can get out of here with the win.
so with Pittsburgh, it's like, all right, Pittsburgh right now is 1A in that AFC North. Baltimore 1B. I mean, we've talked about the Cleveland Browns ad nauseum. We're not going to talk about them today because they lost to the Giants, who are a terrible franchise and a terrible team. And whenever the Browns move on from Deshaun Watson is when they're going to be good. We've already established that point. So that's all you're going to get from Browns Giants, even though Malik Neighbors looks incredible.
Yes, he does.
I do want to put that guy.
He looks awesome. He
looks so good. LSU product. Please draft them. Whatever you do at wide receiver, just get somebody from LSU. It'll work out. And then we've got the Bengals sitting there in the AFC North too, where they played a good game that they lost against Kansas City. That's a team that we've kind of talked about where the offense needs to get a little bit of an identity. They need to let Joe Burrow stop playing so conservative, or he's got to stop himself from playing so conservative if it's a him thing. And it just feels like Baltimore is in a good position to get out of the hole that they were in now and either take over the division or be a wild card in that division. But the AFC, I'm looking across the AFC, man. The AFC is looking soft. Like
it's not
outside of Houston. Outside of Houston, like,
and Houston just got
demolished
yesterday
to the best team in the league, by the way. Minnesota, the best team in the league. Like, we all had it.
Right. I mean, I will say I did have as one of my bold predictions before the season at yahoosports.com. Vikings playoffs team, Kevin O'Connell, coach of the year.
Wow.
Feeling pretty good about that so far.
Wow. That's why you do this guy's work on Yahoo Sports, by the way, everybody.
So I think the AFC is really interesting because it just feels like they're about to cannibalize each other. Like with how, because I tend not to think like this streak that we've seen of really crappy offenses is going to stick for the whole season. I think, I'm a believer in like the cliche mid-season form. I think we're still working our way. Yeah. It's only week 2 going in. Like we're finishing up week 3. So I think there's still room for guys who improve in the offense in the passing game part. And when you start looking at like Kansas City's already 3-0, right? Yeah. So you're chasing them. Buffalo's 2-1. We'll see, or Buffalo's 2-0. We'll see what happens with them tonight after they play Jacksonville, who also needs a win. And if you go on the other side, the Bengals playing the Commanders. The Bengals also need a win because they have let themselves once again fall to 0-2. But where I keep falling with some of these AFC teams, especially like the Bengals, where I'm like, dude, I know they're 0-2, but they've been 0-2 before, and they've still made the playoffs. Where Burrow figures it out, Chase figures it out, Higgins comes back healthy. I don't know if that's the start of it, but I know that playing the Commanders' defense is at least a step to start feeling like
a good step.
So yeah, I'm really interested in the AFC tonight. I think that's a big night for them. But man, I just look at the meat of this conference and say maybe it doesn't feel like as top tier dominant, but all the quarterbacks are still here, except for except for the Dolphins, which is unfortunate.
Let's spend a second on the Dolphins, and I think I declared them dead last week where I was like, look, as long as Tua's out, you can throw this team away unless they make a trade, unless something happens. But this is not a team built for just anybody to walk in and play quarterback. Like, there's a specific design and scheme that Mike McDaniel likes to run that, God bless him, Skylar Thompson can't run. That, God bless him even more, Tim Boyle can't run, right? Like,
see, that's where the Dolphins messed up with the quarterback situation, I think. Like, they it's just too far a drop from Tua to Skylar Thompson. And like, no offense to Skylar. Most people never make it to the NFL. Most people never get to start a playoff game. But like, we've seen this. Mm-hmm. We saw it before this season. And look, just because Tua didn't get hurt last year doesn't mean he's never going to get hurt again. So like, how could you possibly walk into the season with Skylar Thompson as your quarterback too? Because I think in theory, like, another quarterback, maybe not to like the extreme efficiency that they've had, but like another quarterback should be able to step in here and at least like be an average offense, right? Like, there's no reason that you should drop to like the worst offense in the league just because Tua is out. To me, that says your backup quarterback situation is way worse than it needs to be. Because like, we're going to suffer with Tua not out, but in theory, we still have Tyreek, we still got Waddle, we still got Chen, we still got Mike McDaniel. That should be enough to score more than 3 damn points. They went
from being the best offense in the league to the worst offense in the league.
Right.
And it's not just Tua. The answer cannot just be Tua, because if that's the case, you should have paid him $500 million.
Right. Because what we're seeing suggests like Tua is basically as valuable as like Mahomes or something.
Yes.
Which is where which means like your backup quarterback is way too far. Backup quarterback situation is way too far away from being acceptable. And like, look, dude, we saw Tim Boyle last year on Thanksgiving against the Dolphins throw a 99-yard Hail Mary pick 6 going into halftime. You know he's not good. Like, you
live scouted him. And you said, this is our guy.
This is our guy. And at no point has Tim Boyle ever been good at football. So like,
what a robbery. Tim Boyle's agent. I need to get that guy as my agent, because that guy works miracles. Tim Boyle from, if I remember correctly, you could correct me here, from UConn, the worst program in FBS.
Terrible,
truly terrible. Then goes to the NFL as a truly terrible product of a truly terrible system. Then gets to the Jets, another truly terrible team, and then is now a backup somewhere making what, $600,000, $800,000 a year. Like, what did I do wrong?
You weren't 6'4" with a rocket arm. You know?
I am.
Okay, well, the rocket arm part, because Tim Boyle can throw it over he can throw it over the moon. You know, it just might hit the sun on the way there.
Yeah. So, are you intrigued at all by Snoop Huntley?
Yeah, I think as far as backup quarterbacks go, like, he's a credible player to put back there. You know, obviously it's not going to be the same, but like, we've seen moments where, like, dude, you go back to the playoff game that he started against the Bengals a couple years ago. If he just holds that ball as he's going across the goal line instead of fumbling and letting Sam Hubbard run 99 yards the other way for a touchdown, like, that's a statement game on his legacy. And hey, he's a former Pro Bowl quarterback. You know, now actually, I got a funny story about that. So I was covering the Pro Bowl in Vegas that year, the first year they went to the Pro Bowl games. I managed to like sneak my way onto the field for like the entire events, including the game itself. I got to meet like Peyton Manning, which is really cool. Yeah. But I asked Tyler Huntley, I was like, bro, like, come on, let's be real. Like, what were you doing when this happened? He said he was just chilling by the pool at home. Next thing he knows, he gets a call say that he's in the Pro Bowl. He was like, what?
It's like the Drisky meme, like, me?
He's like, me? Like, I'm in the Pro Bowl. He said he ran around and he sprinted around the pool, did a backflip. He said he's a little confused, but hey, I'll take it. I'll take it. So yeah, this is what you're getting. You're getting a Pro Bowl quarterback. But no, at the very least, like, he's steady. Like, you should not feel like you're only going to score 3 points. Me personally, I would just trade for Russell Wilson and say, hey, pal, this is still Tua's team, but if you want to go try and save your career for the next 5 weeks, have at it. That's probably what I would do, because I think the Steelers, they obviously just want to move forward with Justin Fields. They are, they're just doing Steelers things and not saying it, but they obviously want to try this out for the whole season. Just flip him to Miami, and I think that that's a trade that works out for everybody.
I know a lot of other talking heads have been talking about Bryce Young, and we'll get to that situation in a second. But is Bryce Young somebody that can step in and fill in at least admirably, or are we completely out? Is everyone across the board out on the Bryce Young experiment as QB1?
I wouldn't stake my season on it. Like if you wanted to go try, like if we were trying to like win some games, and like if we're trying to be like 2-3 while Tua's out, no, there's no chance. But like if I don't know, what are any of these teams? Which one of these seasons are already over? I don't know. I don't really even know where the place would be where you go out and you
Rams. Does the Rams season feel over? Big win last night, but
yeah, they did win yesterday, and I don't think that Sean McVay, I guess he did draft Stetson Bennett, but I say usually he wants like the strong, like big armed guy who can fling it back and play action. So I don't really think there is a spot for Bryce, and based on what we've seen and based on what we saw Sunday, because Andy Dalton is not a world killer by any stretch of the imagination. He's just functional. To me, that was just like, oh man, maybe this is just done. And if you can get him for like a 7th after the season, maybe that's worth checking out. But right now, no shot. There's no shot.
There had to be somebody screaming from the rooftops, guys, it's Alabama. It's not Bryce Young. Why did we become so infatuated for that brief moment in time with the little quarterback that could?
I don't really know, to be honest with you, because like I'm trying to figure out the point on when we were just like, yeah, who cares? Like, because maybe it was Baker when that started, and Baker was good enough where it was like, hey, maybe we should open our eyes to this. And then Kyler came in, and Kyler was good, and Kyler's been good this year. So I think the height stuff, I mean, and even to me, the height stuff like doesn't really matter as much. To me, that's not why Bryce Young is bad. It's like, yeah, you can be short, but you have to be like Russell Wilson level athlete, Kyler Murray level athlete. If you go back, you look at early Drew Brees stuff, he was a really sick athlete coming out of Purdue in his early days, before he played 20 years in the NFL, and we got to know the statue version of him. The thing with Bryce is like he just doesn't have a big arm, not fast, and you're also dealing
everything
with
else not good.
Right. So like basically what you would need for him to be is perfect from like a processing standpoint to start making plays, which is not really reasonable for a rookie. And then like once you start asking that, it's like, well, damn, like how long are we going to wait for this? Because if it's one thing, like if you're kind of like an Anthony Richardson or a Caleb Williams type where, okay, yeah, a lot of this looks like a mess right now, but you look at Caleb Williams, he's still ripping 50-yard darts to Romo Dunes down the field and still getting big chunks, even when the rest of this isn't working. Like Anthony Richardson has moments where it's been shaky and spotty, but at any point he can go rip off a 60-yard play. That's where Bryce Young doesn't have any of that. So you're just like, damn, we ain't got nothing unless this is all perfect. Like we need 90 overalls to put in CFB terms at every position in order for this to work. Sorry, it sucks, but
which is what he had at Alabama, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
He just had 99s across the field and was like, all right, who can I throw to? All right, here you go. Heisman Trophy winner, Devonta Smith. Here you go. Like, oh, Jameson Williams is open. Perfect. Yeah. Getting back to that other game, because they actually played each other, and I think you did that because you're a professional. Caleb Williams, Anthony Richardson. I get so frustrated with Anthony Richardson because, yes, I understand in football terms, almost like in dog terms, right? Like in dog years, it's like 1 year is really 7 years. I feel like Anthony Richardson, when he gets to the amount of football being played that he needs to like process and make those throws, he's going to be good. It's just, will we give him the runway to be average or mediocre until he's really good? Because he has plays where he's incredible.
Yeah, I think people need to relax on Anthony Richardson because, dude, he just hasn't played that much. And maybe it turns out to be nothing. Like maybe this is it. I think people also, like, you have to be willing to account for that possibility as well. That like what you're seeing now is it for the rest of the time. Oof. But for now, I'm willing to let the imagination expand and say, hey, there's still a lot more untapped here. I mean, even the first game, I know the completion percentage wasn't great, but he was making plays to help them win that game, even if it's not just with his arm. Like he was still making plays with his legs. Mm-hmm. And I think with just someone who hasn't played as much football, like you're just gonna have to eat a game like yesterday, where it looks, whoa, that was nasty. That was that was not good. Like there was a play in there. He missed to Josh Downs, who was wide open, and that ball sailed out of bounds and it could have hit someone in the face. And like there was no one within 20 yards of Josh Downs. He just airmailed it. So I get concerns about those games, but I still think about like the Houston game, or if you want to go back to last year, one of his first starts against the Rams, where he just stared Aaron Donald right in the face and marched down the field a bunch of times and scored some touchdowns in a comeback effort to try and beat the Rams. Like that talent's there. But you're just going to have to live with some of this stuff, at least for this season. I wouldn't really start getting concerned unless we're like in 2025 and it's week 3 and you're like, okay, we still look like this.
We're still going 9 for 22.
Right. Hey, this team got to the playoffs for Gardner Minshew. Might want to start talking about this. And I just want to say real quick, I thought Caleb Williams, when I went back and looked at it again today, I actually played a pretty good game yesterday. Like if I was a Bears fan, that would probably be the first game where I'm like, oh,
there it is.
We're seeing some signs of life.
There it is.
Signs of life. There it is.
he had a couple throws to Rome Odunze. Was like, oh, okay. Because I remember a lot of the stuff that we were talking about, I think a couple of weeks ago, was he was trying to make college plays in the NFL, and that does not work. And now it feels like he's getting his feet warm, and he's like, oh, wait a second. Okay. Especially with what happened last week 2, with DeMeco Ryans. And I think a pretty good Texans defense. Didn't show it on Sunday, but I think that's a pretty good Texans defense. And they did some stuff to kind of disguise coverages where he was confused, threw a couple picks. But I was looking and being like, all right, now he looks like he's getting into the water of the NFL, processing a little bit quicker. I feel like that was a lot of the stuff that he was talking about, right? Like this processing time is so much faster in the NFL. And it's like, yeah, buddy, well, welcome to the big leagues. This is what we do around here.
It's just faster. It's different. But what helps him, like what we're talking about Bryce Young is, dude, he's got the A+++ arm strength. And I still think like the accuracy, now that he's starting to calm down, I think the accuracy is starting to come back a little bit because he threw some absolute dimes. Because part of the stuff with Caleb Williams' first couple of weeks was like, dude, I know that you can do a lot more than this. But especially in that first game against the Titans, I thought that was just straight nerves because he's airmailing shots that we've seen him hit routinely, like with his eyes closed at USC. So I'm like, bro, just settle in. You'll be fine. I think that this game was kind of the first step in him settle in. But dude, like, he had this one throw that didn't count, I think, for a holding penalty where he's like rolling towards like the left sideline and there's someone who's like right on the corner. So he's thrown it away from like his normal, his hand strength, his right arm, and he threw it on like a beeline, right? Like it teleported into his hands. And I'm like, do you understand how hard it is to throw a perfect pass at that angle, running away from someone to the wrong hand of your dominant side?
It's crazy.
He's going to be just fine. So you like Odun's going to be fine. Caleb's going to be fine. The offensive line might not be fine, but I think yesterday was a step in the right direction.
The running game is tough too.
Tough.
Like DeAndre Swift is, for as good as he was in Philly, he's been equally as bad this season. I think I saw a stat, this may be wrong because of week 3, but he's seen the least 8+ man boxes and has the worst yards per carry in those 8-man boxes or non-8-man boxes. It's like, what's going on? It's the offensive line. It's ass.
It's ass. And look, let's be real. He's never played with a bad O-line before.
Right.
Because, well, maybe in the early days in Detroit, but like.
They got good.
But they got good. As he left, where did he go? He went to Philly. Like, because some DeAndre Swift has some critics. I think he's a good running back, but some people, they have quips about his vision and stuff. Like, oh, he's just been a benefactory of a great offensive line. Maybe they're right on that, but I still think at some point he's going to prove why they signed him. Because, you got to start acting like a veteran at some point. You got to be a professional. Let's go.
A game that was ugly, but it was a game. Eagles Saints. Saints highest flying offense since the X team. Get quickly brought down to earth with an Eagles defense that wasn't great. Like let up a lot of yards and a lot of points to a lot of teams. Jalen Hurts is in a weird funk. Obviously, AJ Brown hurt. That hurts him. Devonta Smith getting hurt midway through the game. That hurts him. Goddard with a big game, but like it just feels like what are we seeing with Jalen Hurts? Because he was $200 million contract, maybe MVP, maybe Super Bowl champion, to where does he fall right now? Because the game is looking really quick for him. I don't know why.
I mean, is it wrong to say he might just be like an average quarterback?
that would hurt because I staked my claim in Jalen Hurts early. I was like, this is the guy. And now I'm like, who is that guy? That's not my guy.
But see, like the problem, what makes discussing Jalen Hurts tough to me is like I can watch that game yesterday and be like, whoa, that was bad. That was bad. And you look at the stat sheet and it's like 29 for 38, 300 yards and just one pick. But you watch the game and it's like this looks very difficult for him. And I think what we've actually learned this season is over the past couple of years, I think he's relied on like some of the out of structure plays that he would make with AJ Brown a little bit too much, where, you know, he's a guy that will hold the ball for a while, sit back there, try and find someone. And he and AJ had actually developed like really good chemistry on those plays. I don't have like the numbers in front of me, but I looked it up last year, and like passes that took more than 4. Wait
a second. Let's read that comment from Michael Fuentes. Tony dismissing all Alabama QBs stays silent on Jalen Hurts because he was.
Hey, that's an Oklahoma quarterback.
Thank you. Transferred. Not fully an Alabama quarterback, even though I'm out on Mac Jones, out on Bryce Young, Tua kind of out on Tua. Yeah. It might be a fair criticism, but again, Oklahoma saves me there. Lincoln Riley, the ghost of Lincoln Riley.
Dude, with Jalen, it's just like maybe like you were actually one of those quarterbacks who, like, just right place, right time, Hall of Famer, where you got in with an elite offensive line. Good run game, good wide receivers, good defense, and now that like the pieces are starting to slowly dissipate. Jason Kelsey's not there. Defense isn't as stalwart.
Lane Johnson just got hurt.
Lane Johnson just got hurt. Right. You've got new guys in on the interior, like younger guys like Landon Dickinson and Cam Jurgens. Saquon Barkley's so awesome, so you're not gonna get anything there. But maybe he's just not one of those guys who can really upload the entire system by himself, which is fine. But at the same time, maybe it does look bad for your Jalen Hurts take.
But I still have a caveat though. I still have one. I have one card left to play, Mike Fuentes. Fire Sirianni. Okay, get somebody else in there, because Sirianni wasn't the same when Steichen left and when Gannon left. He was not the same coach, and it feels like a lot of the guys were helping him kind of hoist up and being the face of it. And then
Sirianni's not long for this.
And then all of a sudden, it's like the rug got pulled out from under him. It's like Sirianni's butt naked coaching on the sidelines.
What I still am trying to figure out like what he does, because every time someone asks him a question, he defers to an assistant, like in a press conference. Hey, what's going on? Kellen calls the plays. Vic calls the plays on defense. Well, then what do? You You just call timeouts? Like what is this?
Stand next to Big Dom. That's all you do.
Yes, and at some point we have to recognize the fact that this is kind of an extension of the Doug Peterson regime. It still is, because all you did. So Frank Reich was on Doug's staff, who goes to Indianapolis, and then you just hired Frank's OC to come back and run things in Philly after you got rid of Doug. Like, this is all the same thing. How are we still in charge? These are the same people. It's the same tree. You're still attached to Andy Reid in the long run. Like, so at some point, no, they need to make a change to start all the way over. Like, you at some point you've got to just cut the cord and say, we need like brand new, fresh ideas. I doubt Howie Roseman will ever go anywhere, because like he is one of the sharper GM managers in the league. But no, this coaching situation is not great. But they're also 2-1, and they just won on the road against the hottest team in the NFL. So I don't know. That's the
beautiful thing about the NFL, man. 1 week, everything can change. Because I was saying last week, Houston's the best team in football. I think with their quarterback, with their skill position players, with their defense, with their head coach, with that division being kind of weak, I think they're the best team in football. And then they go to Minnesota and get absolutely dog walked by a team that is on paper okay, Like, are we giving them good on paper? The defense is good. Brian Flores is doing a really good job with the defense that was kind of going this way a couple of years ago. But you're missing Jordan Addison. You've got Jalen Naylor as a wide receiver too. You don't have your tight end. You've got Justin Jefferson kind of hurt. You've got Sam Darnold, the retread of 1,000 other teams. And I saw this stat, by the way. Sam Darnold's still younger than Joe Burrow.
Well, he'll always be younger than Joe Burrow.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But with all that said, Minnesota looks like the best team in football. And then it's like, I thought Houston was the best team in football. And now Minnesota, after beating the 49ers, after beating Houston, like, what else do you say on a young resume of a team within the first 3 weeks?
I mean, it's feeling pretty good if you're a Vikings fan, feeling really good because
let's go,
dude. This defense looks like they can take down anyone because it's not just you have proof of concept that you can shut down the 49ers and the Texans. Like, this is not going against, the Panthers and whatever little sisters
and the Jaguars,
right? That you got running around the NFL right now. You said, no, we shut down the 49ers. We shut down the Texans. Like, this is that is proof of concept as strong as it gets within the first, 3 weeks of the NFL season. So the defense is real. Obviously, I think Kevin O'Connell is real because, dude, he even had Nick Mullins thrown for 350 last year towards the end of the season when they started rotating through their quarterback situation and trying to figure some guys out. So, I think that this could be a situation where maybe the coaching is letting the talent rise a little bit above where we are. Because I'm with you. I look on paper. I'm like, this team looks solid. They look like a 9 to 10 win team, but not one of the best teams in the league, and blowing out really good teams and making, Kyle Shanahan and offenses led by CJ Stroud look pedestrian. That's something to really hang your hat on. So now, as you move forward, I still struggle to say contender, even though the performance would lean itself to putting them in that tier so far.
Because, man, that division is good. Packers look great, good. Even with Malik Willis. The Lions are always going to be there because they're a good team. Bears are frisky when they can.
They're going to be feisty.
Yeah,
they're going to be feisty because I think the defense is still going to figure it out. And then Caleb, it's I think with Caleb, that's just going to be week by week. You're going to be okay. No need to panic here anymore.
There may be that one game where he throws for 350 and 4 scores, and you're like,
right
there it is. But it could be against the Vikings. We don't know.
right. So
which would surprise me.
I'm excited. I'm excited for all this.
Moving over to tonight, we've got a game just about to kick off. The early game is Bills-Jags, and then we've got the later game, Commies versus Bengals. What do you like tonight in Bills-Jags? Jags, a team that has no identity, has no structure. Speaking of Doug Peterson, has nothing. And the Bills, obviously, tops in the AFC, even with an offense that is a little shaky, in my opinion, outside of James Cook and Josh Allen.
Bro, the Jaguars, it's going back to where the Ravens were yesterday against the Cowboys. You got to step up and save your season, man. Because this is today. Because you go to 0-3, this is done. You might as well just fire Doug, fire Press, get a head start on what's next, because this is over if you don't win this game right now today. Which is tough because Josh Allen, I Josh Allen's in that tier where I don't think he's Mahomes, but people who have convinced themselves he's as good as Mahomes, I'm not really going to fight you too hard on that, because he is really, really that good. And I think what's impressive is people have been like, we don't know what's going on with the receivers. This might be a mess. Offensive output has been the exact same. He is very much that guy. So I think that bodes well for them and their ability to for Buffalo's ability to get the win tonight. But for Jacksonville, I don't know what they can do on offense. I still trust the defense to kind of come out and play a decent game this year, even though they're starting to get a little dinged up on that side of the ball. But for tonight, dude, Trevor Lawrence, you just got to gut this out and figure out a way to move the ball. Because I know it hasn't been easy, but at some point, I think he does need to start playing a little bit better. Even though I'm a big fan of his talent, I'm a big fan of his game, this has not been the cleanest start for him. And this is a way for him to at least just start getting people feel good about you again. Dig yourself out of this hole, go get a win versus Buffalo, and keep it moving.
I think he's got one of the worst win-loss records of any starting quarterback going back to last year. He's like 3-7 in his last 10 or something crazy like that. Like he's lost like 6 or 7 in a row. And it's like, dude, at some point, you got to take that next step because they paid you. You're the guy, right, for the next 5 years. And if the next 5 years are going to look like this, you're not going to be that guy very quickly.
Yeah, just not going to be that guy. Going to be rich, going to be well paid, still going to have gray hair. But as far as what we think about you as a quarterback,
not being that guy though.
Yeah, not quite that guy, which is a shame though, because I still think the potential to be that guy is in there. But the more games you go where it just looks sloppy, it's getting a little harder to believe.
That meter is getting a little over. Other game tonight, we talked about it a little bit with the Bengals commies. What are you looking at Jaden Daniels tonight against a good front line for the Bengals?
They're okay.
Okay.
Trey Hendrickson's good.
Trey Hendrickson's awesome. Like he single-handedly almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
He's the reason why Kingsley didn't get to start against the Falcons on Sunday.
Exactly.
The rookie left tackle. So, but I also think like that specific matchup could come back tonight where Trey Hendrickson is, or at least pieces of the Bengals defensive line are kind of making some plays back there, because I think Jaden Daniels has had a good enough start to the season, but one thing, he is holding on to that ball for sure. And he's going to scramble and try to run. Like the scramble rate to just like attempts is ridiculous. He's not really trying to make plays down the field with his arm like you would have expected. Some of that is due to function of offense. I think some of that is also due to, holy crap, this is way faster than I was seeing last year. And I know the one thing that I can absolutely count on each play is me being faster than everybody else.
Exactly.
So we'll see how that looks like against the Bengals. But I think this game has like mini shootout potential where maybe the Commanders could score a couple of touchdowns and keep Bengals offense at bay, because I think the Bengals offense is going to march up and down the field tonight. And if they don't, like, that's a huge red flag. But if there's a way for the Commanders to keep it close, it's probably just like Jaden Daniels scrambles and him making plays with his legs, because I think in terms of like the actual structure of this offense coming together, it still looks like Cliff. It's kind of given up. There's a lot of screens.
A lot of horizontal game.
Yeah. Terry McLaurin's playing only one position, 95% of the snaps. He's just your left receiver. It's like, okay, Cliff, we're not using our brain here, but that's fine.
Miserable. Anytime there's football on is a good time, even though there was some shitty football throughout the week. We are always going to come back because we are absolute sickos and we can't get enough of it.
Right.
Thank you, everybody, for joining Monday Night Live, even though we're Sunday Night Live. Big shout out to Charles McDonald at 4Verts on Twitter. Check out all of his stuff on Yahoo Sports. That incredible football mind. He's got he writes up stuff. He's got the pod.
When's Football 301 with Nate Tyson, Matt Harmon. We're going to record a new episode tomorrow afternoon. So all your Sunday, Monday night doubleheader takes you want to hear, come to Football 301. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts. And thank you for letting me plug that, because I got yelled at for not plugging up Amani's show last week.
You can plug whatever you want here. Thank you, everybody, for joining Monday Night Live. Presented by Smirnoff, the world's #1 vodka. Please drink responsibly. Enjoy the games tonight. Peace.